Hello everyone, my name is Mehrnaz Tavasoli. I'm a study at Massey University, Auckland, New Zealand. Today I am going to talk about song discrimination by territorial male common blackbirds, neighbors versus stranger. Acoustic signals can play an important role in animal communication, mate attraction, and defending a territory, which acts as the first line of defense in animals. Well, one of the necessary requirements of vocal interactions is the ability of individual to discriminate between different individuals based on their vocalization, specifically neighbor and stranger discrimination. Well, neighbor and stranger discrimination is most often explained in evolutionary terms by dear enemy effect, where neighbors may reduce the scale of conflict within a group of familiar male in comparison to interactions with strangers. Here in this study, I'm going to answer two main questions. How do blackbirds distinguish between neighbor and stranger songs? And do they respond differently to dawn song versus daytime song? The study species was common blackbird. I selected 10 male blackbirds from a population of common blackbirds, which they lived at Massey University, Auckland, New Zealand. Their study area includes bushes, lowlands, and building, which provide potential territories and nesting sites for blackbird. I conducted a playback song during breeding season 2019. To design the playback, I created a pool of songs for each focal blackbird. The pool included daytime song and dawn songs from neighbor and stranger. I also included dawn songs from European blackbird, and as a control song, I used the chaffinch song. Well, during the breeding season, when the blackbird was observed in his territory, the playback experiment was started with 1 minute silence, then 3 minute songs, which could be control or a blackbird song. This part was selected randomly from the pool, and then 1 minute silence, and the second part, depending on the first part, could be songs from blackbirds or control part. In this experiment, I recorded different response variables. Response variables included response duration, latency to approach, shortest distance to the speaker, time that blackbird spent within 5 meters, and the time that focal male blackbird start normal foraging after the playback, and the normal foraging distance. When I collected the data in the analysis section, first I applied a principal component analysis to find out an overall view of response variables during the playback experiment. As you can see, the PC1 explains 77.19% of variation in all response variables, and response duration, normal foraging time explain the most variation in PC1. And then I used the generalized linear mixed model to find out the response variation of blackbirds to different type of songs. In the first model, I tested if there there is a variation in response of blackbirds to neighbor, stranger, and European dawn songs. In the second model, I tested if there is a significant variation in blackbird response to the dawn versus daytime songs from the neighbor song. And in the third model, I investigated if blackbird respond differently to dawn versus daytime songs from a stranger. Well, results from the first model showed that the response of blackbirds to control song and blackbird song differed significantly. And also the blackbird response to the stranger was higher than neighbor, and interestingly the response of blackbird to European dawn song was weaker than neighbor and stranger dawn songs. In the second model, blackbird response to neighbor's daytime song is much weaker than their response to neighbor dawn song. And finally, in the last model, we found that male blackbird respond strongly to a stranger's song, irrespective of time of the day. As you can see, the response of the blackbird to dawn and daytime are equal, and there is no significant variation. Well, results from this experiment confirmed the dear enemy theory and showed that blackbird can discriminate between neighbor, stranger, and European songs, and the dawn song has an important role in social interactions among territorial birds, and daytime songs has a territory advertisement role in blackbirds. And regarding the variation of response to European song, dawn song, I can suggest that the song has divergence between these two population, and there might be divergence in song of this isolated population in New Zealand. In terms of cultural evolution or genetic divergence, which is interesting and needs more research and studies in future. Thank you very much for your consideration and listening to this talk.